This guy wasn't ready for me? What's the deal? Hey, welcome everybody. Please have a seat. So excited to get back to the Capitol. I know you guys are ready for Monday, State of the State, and this place is going to be a lot more busy as the legislature comes in from around the state to do the people's business. Really excited about the kickoff of this year. Did an off-site strategy session with the new speaker Hilbert and the pro tem Lonnie Paxton. I'm really looking forward to a great session. I think both chambers are looking forward to working together this year, and it's going to be a successful session. So one of the big things I'm focusing on is to rally the Oklahomans around some principles that we can all agree on. And I think it's what Oklahomans sent us here to do. I think nationally we saw some things happening at the national election, and it's kind of a return to normalcy. It's a return to common sense. Let's make sure that we focus on the American dream for the next generation. And those four things that I think is important that we always focus on. Number one is protecting the Oklahoma taxpayer. It's what I truly believe at my heart will continue to make Oklahoma a top 10 state. Number two, let's make sure that Oklahoma is the best state for business. If we make Oklahoma the best state for business, guess what? It makes Oklahoma the best state for education, the best state for infrastructure, and the best state to raise our families. And the third thing is let's safeguard our savings. When I took office, if you remember, we had almost no money in savings, and historically that had been our pattern. And we've built the largest savings account we've ever had. Our economy is the best it's ever been. And let's make sure that we don't go back to those times when we didn't have a adequate savings account. And the last thing is let's protect the Oklahoma way of life. And it can mean a lot of different things, but we're going to protect our farmers. We're going to protect we're going to deregulate. We're going to make sure permits are timely. We're going to make sure our regulatory bodies respond to our business needs. We're going to make sure that with the influx of data centers and technology and people asking for more power, we're going to encourage more power generation. We're going to take our clean burning natural gas. We're going to turn it into electricity that then is going to turn into more jobs for our citizens. So that's something that we're really blessed with in Oklahoma. So looking forward to a great session and being with you guys and answering questions as things move along over the next few months. So thanks for being here, and I'll open it up to questions.
Good morning. President Trump is talking about abolishing the federal income tax. Obviously, that's something you talked about a lot with new leadership in DC, new leadership here in the Capitol. Do you feel like this is the year for some kind of tax cut?
Well, I think most Americans, I think we're excited for a Trump administration. I loved what he said about setting up the External Revenue Service to go after tariffs and hold other countries accountable to pay their share back to the citizens of the U.S. So I think that's kind of interesting. I know that he's been studying President McKinley, and President McKinley was a big tariff president, and I know the president's talked a lot about tariffs to make sure that we are not putting Oklahoma or American companies at a disadvantage against other manufacturers around the world. So I think that's the big national picture. And my goal this year, I mean, I've been saying it for 6 years now. We need more taxpayers, not more taxes. Every time we've cut taxes, we've seen our revenue actually increase. And so what people don't realize is when we give money back to the taxpayer, the money doesn't disappear. It just stays in the citizens' pockets. And I believe that they can spend their money better than the government can. So my goal this year is a half and a path. So a half a point tax cut and a path to zero. We're not cutting core services, but what that will do is it limits the growth of government. And our economy has been booming every single year that I've been in office. And we can't just keep raising the base level expenses. We need to give that money back to the taxpayers in the form of a tax cut. We've done it before. We did the largest tax cut in state history last year. We got rid of the grocery tax, which has helped tremendously on working families when inflation is causing prices to increase at the grocery store and all across different products in our country. So I hope to get a half and a path done this year. I think the Senate and the House are ready to deliver on that for Oklahomans.
I think some people have heard that call for a tax cut, and then also have heard some state agencies, executive agencies, explaining their need for additional revenue for certain purposes. You've got the mental health consent decree that will require some funding. You've got the Donahue Hospital that needs to be funded. Those are just off the top of my head. How do you square the idea of asking for $250 million, $350 million tax cut like that, maybe even more depending on the numbers actualized, with the needs that your own agency heads have articulated that the people need to have the services they need?
There's, I can square it very easily. Government will spend every dime that you give them. And there's never a shortage of good ideas. People come to you every year and they want more. And if you give them more taxpayer money, look how much more good they think they can do. But there has to be a limit on it. And I'll give you a perfect example. I used it last year. New York and Florida. Those are two states in our country that have very similar population sizes. There are about 20 million people in each. And then you look at their state budgets. New York has a budget of over $230 billion. Florida's budget is $115 billion. Why is that? Well, one of the reasons I could tell you is New York has more money to spend. They have a 10.9% state income tax, and Florida has 0. I don't think people in Florida, they still have their Medicaid, they still have schools, we still have airports, we still have police. And so again, this is an age-old question. How big should government be? And I'm a limited government person. I'm a person that believes in the free markets. And let's leave those decisions up to the individual to spend that money. Let's leave it to churches and nonprofits. And again, remember, we've got $4.6 billion in savings. So I'm not saying we can't strategically invest in infrastructure or a mental health hospital or this or that. But you also have to realize since 2019, our appropriations have gone from about $8 billion to over $12 billion. So I'm not afraid to invest in certain things, but we cannot continue to increase spending every year by, over the next 6 years by another 50%.
Governor, I got 2 questions, one about immigration, one about budget. I'll start with immigration. I've been speaking with some folks in corrections, and they have said that before you can deport anybody out of our prison system, you have to commute the sentence. And I was wondering, I don't know specific inmates and what crimes they did, but they're in prison for bad things. Are you okay with commuting these sentences just to get them deported? I mean, are you okay putting your name next to a commutation for a rapist or a murderer just to get them deported?
Of course not. And I've got Tim Tipton, I've got Steve Harp looking at all of those people that are currently incarcerated. We have about 536 people incarcerated in state prisons that are here illegally. They've committed crimes, are here illegally. And we're having to balance, yes, justice for the families and the victims. What is the country of origin? Do we have secure borders? Could they recommit a crime? Have they served their sentence? So those are all things we're doing. We're not going to cross the board release bad people without serving justice. But there are people that are at the end of their sentence and they're about to get out. And historically, over the last 4 years, when we turned them over to ICE, nothing happened. They were just back into the communities. And so I think that's what Tom Holman, that's what the Trump administration is talking about. Oklahoma is going to be ready. Other states have been reaching out to Tim Tipton and Steve Harp to figure out how we're looking at those people in prison. But you make some great points, and it's certainly something that we're considering. And so the victims don't have to worry about that. We're thinking through all those things, and we're not going to let bad people out just to make a political statement. But I also am thinking about the tens of millions of dollars that Oklahoma taxpayers are spending incarcerating people that really shouldn't be in our state anyway.
My budget question, I've been speaking to some lawmakers, you're gonna get the Board of Equalization numbers next month. And there is kind of a fear that that's Joe Biden's world. We're in Donald Trump's world now. We don't know how drill baby drill and gross production tax is gonna perform. We don't know what they're gonna do with inflation. How are you budgeting for a world we just got used to last week? Do you think those budget numbers will reflect how life will be in September or October?
So the Board of Equalization will get the numbers that predict or give the estimate of what the legislature can spend on February 14th. And if you look over the last, since I've been in office, we've been really conservative with our numbers. In other words, we have outperformed our numbers every single year. And that was back when Trump was in office and also the 4 years of President Biden. So we're really conservative when we go into those things. I think that's the right budgeting approach to take. And so, obviously there's a lot of things that can happen nationally at a policy perspective, but Oklahoma's in a great spot. We are an oil and gas state. I think we will only benefit from Trump policies. And again, back to my original statement on energy, I think Oklahoma is becoming the place to be for technology, for data centers. I think you're going to see a lot of development come. President Trump talked about a $20 billion investment, then he talked about a $500 billion investment. Oklahoma was on that list. I've taken some international trips to try to recruit some of those dollars to the state of Oklahoma to set up some of these centers. And so I think I see great opportunity for Oklahoma in the future, and I think our revenue will continue to climb up and to the right.
Good morning, Governor. Just wanted to check on if you are still kind of in support of all of the above energy policy. You mentioned energy consumption, the data centers, artificial intelligence. You mentioned natural gas, obviously, but there's some bills out there that curtail some of our wind projects already in existence or planned. Are you still an all above guy, or are you kind of just going on the all gas route?
I am still an all above guy. Energy abundance agenda is kind of what I'm going to talk about. I've been, I think, very consistent on the fact that I don't believe in subsidies. And so let's not put our finger or thumb on the scale and pick one energy over another energy. Let's let the free markets work. And we believe that in Oklahoma. I was just with SPP yesterday, which is our Southwest Power Pool executives. They came over from Little Rock to meet with me. And one of the things that they've told me that I think is important for the American people and Oklahomans to understand is with wind or with renewables, you can't count on them when you need to. In other words, here's the example. There's about 35,000 megawatts of energy that is in the Southwest Power Pool from wind. But the nameplate, in other words, the amount of energy that you can count on is only 5,000, okay? From 35,000 to 5,000. Now, a natural gas plant, you can count the nameplate energy is 90% of what their total production could be. So in other words, if it's super cold outside, or if the load demand we need more electricity, if the wind's not blowing, you can't count on that. And so when you rely so much, and I've said this consistently, we're not against renewables. They're a good additive to the grid, but you have to have a base load of natural gas. And that's what I think the Biden administration has tried to sell a bill of goods to the American people, that we can be all on wind or solar or renewables, and natural gas is saving the day for a reliability purpose in the U.S. And also Oklahoma our mix of energy is driving all these economic developments because we have some of the most affordable energy in the country. And that's really, really critical for our state as well.
Good morning, Governor. Just have a couple questions. First is on business. You say that you want Oklahoma to be the best state for business. in the nation. What are some essential initiatives that need to happen this legislative session to accomplish that? And what has been your input to the new legislative leaders to make that happen? I will give you my follow-up. Does tort reform in any way factor into making Oklahoma a better business state?
Well, great question. Couple thoughts. Number one is business courts. We got that passed last year, and we want to signal to the business community that Oklahoma is the place to be headquartered. Oklahoma is the place for our for rule of law. You see Delaware attacking Elon Musk's company, right? Got into compensation that was negotiated by the board and et cetera, et cetera. So he pulled out of Delaware. You saw the court system attack President Trump's business. I don't want businesses to think that could happen to them in Oklahoma. So we're going to set up business courts. It's going to be live in 2026. So really excited about that. That's one thing. I think the business tax, I've cut it already 2 points in Oklahoma. We want to cut another 0.5 point in the business tax, which will also signal to businesses that they can set up and they can be successful here. You can talk about the executive order I signed for permitting. Businesses want shovel-ready sites. They don't want the endless bureaucracy that sometimes slows down. If you look at how long it takes to get a permit in California to build a house, they're in big trouble. They're in big trouble with what's happening out there. And our hearts go out to all the devastation that's happened. But you're going to see people not rebuild. They're going to come to states like Oklahoma because it's going to be quicker and easier and more affordable instead of having to go through the endless bureaucracy to get a simple permit. So always thinking about that layer of things. Tort reform is something that businesses need assurance. You can't have runaway jury verdicts. That's something that I think is really important. From Governor Keating, my predecessor, he really focused on tort reform, and that's something that we need to look at to make sure some of the courts have eroded some of the gains that he did back in the late 90s, and we'd like to get those things reinstated. The medical community, the doctors have come to me and said, Governor, it is cheaper for us to set up shop with our malpractice insurance in Dallas, Texas, than it is in Oklahoma. I want Oklahomans to have access to all the doctors. I want more doctors per capita here than we have in Texas. I want it in rural Oklahoma. But you have to realize these people are going to be making a decision on what's best for them and their family as well. And we can't have expenses to be an outlier, right? Everything is market. We have to compete with Texas and Arkansas and Kansas on tax policies, make sure our insurance costs are comparable to the region that we compete in. So I think those are 3 examples of things that we'd look at this year, and I'd encourage the legislature to continue to move forward on.
Good morning, sir. You've always been pretty passionate about trying to save the state money and things. You recently issued an executive order concerning state vehicles and ordering every agency to look how many they have, and I guess it was an aim to reduce the number of vehicles. How many vehicles do we have, and why kind of focus on that issue?
I learned that from a former governor in Indiana, Mitch Daniels, and I loved it when I first became governor. He told me that he went and put a penny on the right back tire of every state vehicle, and then he went back 30 days from then, and if the penny was still there, he sold the vehicle. And I thought, man, that's a brilliant idea. And so I know the waste. I know the people that have vehicles. I see the lots, and just trying to find out how many vehicles we have has been a challenge. And so I think we're down. Some agencies have brought to me, and just services are still happening. People are still are meeting the needs of Oklahomans. But I think we're down 600-700 vehicles. My goal was to get rid of 1,000 vehicles. And just be able to share those vehicles more efficiently. And so just kind of getting the agencies to work together. That's why I like the consolidation a little bit. I like sharing some of the resources that we already have in state government.
Last question.
Governor, there's been a lot of talk about the freeze of federal funding and everything from the administration. Can you talk about that impact on state agencies, local organizations, tribes? There's a lot of organizations that use this federal funding. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it was brought to our attention yesterday, and I think a lot of overreacting. First off, I talked to Ellen Butner, who is our director of Healthcare Authority today that manages our Medicaid. She has been able to access that federal website to draw down some funds that are reimbursement for our hospitals and our doctors. But I think a little misinformation. I think the Trump administration, what they were talking about is trying to get their arms around foreign aid. Like, where's all the foreign aid going to? Are we allowing these countries to just send out money? So I think he was trying to get control of that, putting America first as far as environmental agreements. You saw President Trump pull out of the Paris Agreement. And I think there was just funds just going out the door from the federal budget that he wanted to get his arms around. He wanted to end DEI. There were states that were pulling down, or universities pulling down DEI funding. So he was like wanting to stop that. I think most Americans agree with that. He wanted to defend women from gender ideology. There were maybe potentially states doing gender surgery that did not agree with the president, or in Oklahoma, that's not happening. But I think that's what he was talking about. We're not talking about SNAP benefits. We're not talking about Medicaid, all that. And we can share the memo back with you, was back reinstated. So there are a lot of misinformation yesterday. All that's back online. I think, Chairman Cole, our great congressman from Oklahoma, is the chairman of the appropriations. I think he was down in Mar-a-Lago meeting to make sure that, the core services were not disrupted. So, but yeah, if you believe in DEI and you believe in funding for, environmental agreements around the world, and you're trying to, do those kind of things, you probably are upset about this. But Americans, I think for the most part, agree and applaud with President Trump trying to get federal spending under control. And I think that was the effort that he was trying to do there. And I agree with him 100%. Thank you guys so much, and looking forward to next week with you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see your smiling faces here in April. Isn't it a beautiful day outside? It's awesome. Well, I just wanted to open with a couple comments. Number one, it's important that Oklahomans think about this and understand it. And so I just appreciate you guys covering these things and letting Oklahomans understand. I tell people all the time that as citizens, if all 4 million Oklahomans could sit on the couch in my office and we could go through the issues, it's a pretty common sense. That's what I always use to make decisions. And we're going to be fair with everybody. We don't pick winners and losers. Nobody wants a government picking winners and losers. And so, I signed a compact with the Cherokees, the Choctaws, the Chickasaws on tobacco and on car tags. And now the Creeks, the Muskogee Creeks, they're trying to get the legislature. They're up in this building, and they're meeting with legislatures, members, trying to intervene this compact process. They want to do a 2-year extension so that they can outlast Governor Stitt, because they want a special deal. So here's some important background for everybody to understand that the Creeks compact expired on tobacco December 31st of 2024. So December 31st expired. In good faith, they came to us and said, "Oh, we need more time to negotiate." We said, "No problem." So we gave them an extension until March 31st of this year to negotiate, to talk about the card tag compacts, to talk about tobacco, to give them time to go back to their tribal council as they were telling us they needed to do. Nothing. They refused to negotiate. They haven't been good faith partners. And now they're trying to circumvent the governor of Oklahoma and go directly to the legislature to get a special deal. This is what's really important for Oklahomans to understand. You know, they want a special deal. They believe they should drive on the roads, on the turnpike, and not pay the tolls like everybody else. And that's what's happening, because the tags that they print that say Muskogee Creek Nation on it, it's not inside our database. So the tolls that we have don't have any way to bill that license plate. That's the problem. No other state would deal with this. You can't just go print license plates in any other state in America and drive on the roads, and so the law enforcement doesn't know who that is. It just makes no sense. And as governor, when I see this stuff, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We're going to know who's driving our roads. We're going to make sure that we know what the revenue that we collect that goes to pay for roads and bridges in the state of Oklahoma. So I just want Oklahomans to hear it from me. I'm not going to let, I'm not going to let one race not pay a toll and then charge every other race, right? Let's make tolls free for everybody. Let's get rid of the tolls completely before we do that, right? That's what we need to do. So this deal is still on the table. We've offered this to the creeks on tobacco and the car tag compact. So it's really disappointing. And I think when Oklahomans sit down and really think about it, they'll be like me. They'll be frustrated when they see a car tag out there that's printed on that says Muskogee Creek Nation on it. So with that, I'll open it up to questions, comments. Yes, sir.
Sir, there's been reports that some members of the State Board of Education regret their support for the new social studies standards, and that they would prefer the legislature to determine them, so they can review them and have a vote. Would you be supportive of the legislature doing that?
You know, well, first off, yeah, the legislature, it's in their court right now. So the way that works, those are approved by a board, and then they go to the legislature for final approval if they're in session. So certainly the legislature needs to act on that. The thing that concerned me was the mechanics, how it was done. So it's been showed to me from the board members that they were emailed a copy of those standards, but then there was a different standard that was sitting on the desk that they actually voted on. Well, that's very, very odd. In a corporate board setting, if a CEO came and sent the board a package and said, we're voting on this policy, but then they slid a different policy that they actually were voting on, the board would be very, very frustrated, hold people accountable. You know, the problem right now is these boards are supposed to hold people accountable, right? But there's legislation that a board member can't put something on the agenda. That's being held up in the legislature right now. I hope that gets across the finish line, because it doesn't make sense for Oklahomans or to me or to anybody if we're supposed to hold the agencies accountable and a board member can't even pull something up to ask questions and can't get an agenda item on a board. And I know we're kind of in the weeds, and but that really doesn't make sense when you really stop and think about it. So hopefully the legislature will get that across the finish line. And let's have an honest conversation about what those social studies standards are. I think ultimately, I'm not saying those are good or bad. The legislature is going to have to make a decision on that. But the mechanics of how it came about really just feels like somebody needs to look into it, and we're trying. Yes, sir.
Following that, there were discussions on administrative rules today. Earlier this session, you had talked about the citizenship document rule that the State Department of Education, the Board of Education put forward. House members today said that they kind of want to disapprove of that rule. Several reasons: statutory, should just go to the legislature, not the acting rules process. Didn't know if you had an update on that, if you talked about that with the legislature. You know,
that's the whole reason that you need the board member to be able to put an agenda item on to be voted on or be discussed even, right? So I think this one bill would solve all this. There was a joint press statement, I think, between the speaker and the pro tem saying this is a good thing. I mean, who doesn't think that's normal, whether you're on a bank board or you're on Walmart's board or any board? If the board members cannot say, hey, let's talk about this subject, it's really not a board, right? It's a dictatorship. And so I think that's really the question that we're asking ourselves. And we find these things out, and I just push the legislature to say, hey, we need to fix this. When you find these things out, let's get this stuff fixed. The legislature can fix that, but if the board's able to fix it, then the board would put something on there and they would say, hey, let's discuss this further. Maybe we shouldn't put kids on a list. I've beat that dead horse 100 times now. I don't think that President Trump's policies are talking about, going after kids, right? He's talking about criminals. He's talking about criminal activity. He's talking about getting those folks out of our country, securing our border, knowing who's coming in. We agree with all that. I'm not going to start on picking on 7 and 8 year olds and putting them on a list. It's not a public safety issue. So I'm trying like heck to make sure that we have some common sense here in Oklahoma, and I need some help from the legislature to be able to get that across the finish line. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Governor. Both at Oklahoma Watch and KFOR had stories this week about new people at the State Department of Education getting hired by Ryan Walters, getting big paychecks. The backgrounds appear to be more on the political consultants, communications side. Just wanted to get your thoughts on what taxpayer money is paying for at that agency right now with those new people.
Yeah, I mean, great conversation. I mean, I think you guys need to report on that kind of stuff. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think that's why, citizens, we hate politicians. We get so frustrated with the political process because we're not dumb. Oklahomans are not dumb. Oklahomans see these people that are in these different political positions that are running for their next office, and they're looking for press statements, and they're trying to use state dollars to, make political statements. So I don't know specifically who they're hiring. There's 30,000 employees in the state of Oklahoma, and unfortunately, you know me, the governor doesn't get to hire and fire all the different state agency heads. So those all report to different boards or commissions, or they're separately elected. That's the way the system's set up. And so it's up to us as citizens to understand what's happening and hold our elected officials accountable. The more the more I'm in this office, I try to explain everywhere I go around the state when I talk to different groups is I first thank them for being there, because the fact that you're watching this on TV or the fact that you're listening to this, you want to be more informed in what's happening in the state of Oklahoma. And that's a good thing, because when you understand these issues, like you pointed out, you start connecting the dots. You start connecting the political dots with what's happening. And then you look at the lobbyist and how everything is connected. And instead of just doing the business of the people, that we believe in lower taxes, smaller government, a lot of stuff gets tied up in the politics and moving towards the next office. And super frustrating for me as an Oklahoman that is going back to the private sector and is going to be cheering on the next guy and going to be trying to help my state grow. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Governor. Clifton Adcock with the Frontier. This is about the Illinois River poultry lawsuit. A.G. Drummond has said that one of the things that he hopes to see, any sort of plan that comes out or any sort of settlement agreement that comes out, is, I guess, barring land application of poultry that are within the Illinois River watershed. Is that something that you can get behind, and why or why not?
So thank you for asking that. That's a great question, because here's the deal. We can all play Monday morning quarterback, and we can all say, it's easy targets for big business, right? Oh, that's a real rich business. Let's go after them. Let's go sue them. But here's the facts. These businesses had permits. They followed the law. They did everything they were supposed to. And so 20 years later, you have Attorney General at the time, Drew Edmondson, brought a lawsuit against the chicken industry. And then out of nowhere, you have A.G. Drummond resurrect this lawsuit after it sat dormant for 15 years, I think, maybe it was 13 years, and brought up, and then actually had empowered, Attorney General Edmondson to get back involved and try to, get a pound of flesh out of these businesses. So absolutely not. I am for, there's no possible way that I would be for playing Monday morning quarterback, going to a business and saying, well, you've got deep pockets, you can afford it. Even though you followed all the rules and you had all the permits and you did everything like we told you to do, but now we don't like it. And so we want you to give us $1 billion. That's basically what these trial attorneys are doing. And again, connect the dots. Attorney General Drummond's running for governor and trying to win some political points with the trial attorneys. And he's going after our agricultural industry. So really, really frustrating. I wouldn't be supportive of that at all. And I'll say this to everybody out there. If we think that the Illinois River needs addressing and we think the application of fertilizer is not correct, then we need to fix that. And you fix that going forward, right? So I've talked to Secretary Blaine Arthur. They get all their standards from the EPA when we implement those in the state of Oklahoma. And so we can have a great conversation about it. We can run legislation. The agency can actually fix that. But to go back and punish companies is just because of their balance sheet, and you say, oh, they've got the resources, they can afford it, 100% against it. And I think most Oklahomans, this will tear our state apart business-wise. The reason we're a pro-business state and we've got so much momentum is that there's assurance and there's confidence that Oklahoma doesn't treat companies like California does. And if we go down this road, it is going to be devastating for new entries and new businesses. They'll say, hey, it's just not worth it. We'll go somewhere that really, stands with the rule of law. But that's the way I see it. I think it's really, really clear. I think most Oklahomans agree with me on that. You can't go back and punish a company for doing what they were supposed to do and what they had their license and approvals to do. Yes, sir.
Hey, what's going on, Governor? I know I hate to harp on this again, the social studies standards again. You've got Paxton last week that basically said they're going to go for Monday's kind of the deadline to act on it. May 1st, but Monday's the real day to act on it. Hilbert kind of didn't have a problem with it. And then you've got a board member, and I don't need to put him on the spot, that is here today at this presser. Have you talked to the Republican lawmakers and told them, hey, let's rethink this, let's look back at it? This seems pretty serious at this point. And then a lot of people spoke out in public comment too. So
About what?
about the social studies standards. Have you talked to Republican lawmakers and say, hey, take another look at that, let's go back over this, let's rethink it?
Back to your first point. The pro tem. I didn't know he said he would get that across the finish line.
It looks like it's going to go through. They didn't have a problem with this.
Yeah, and I know that they originally made a great statement in the beginning and just said, yeah, it's pretty reasonable for a board member to be able to put stuff on an agenda item. So hopefully that does go through. Hopefully politics doesn't get in the way, and the pro tem will get that done, and the speaker, and they'll get that to my desk. So on the social study standards, again, like I answered before, let's look at the mechanics of it. Let's dig in those. Let's make sure at least the board knows what they're voting on. And y'all need to ask those questions. You need to get that out and report on that. If there were two different submissions to the board and they didn't have an advance, I think those are issues that we should all be frustrated about, right? And then, the standards themselves, the legislature, hopefully they'll act on that. And I don't know, they may punt it to me, so we'll see. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Governor. I got two questions on the DOGE OK report that identified $157 million in federal healthcare grant funding as being unnecessary or unused. My first question is that several of the grants that were identified seem to fall in line with funding that the Trump administration wanted to resend, dealing with COVID-19 era funding. Was that intentional on DOGE OK's part, or just a coincidence that so many of those grants aligned with the federal funding that was going to be pulled back?
Yeah, I think that was just coincidence. I'd need to know specifically, but what the health department has told me is these are unused grants, right? It's stuff that we had sitting there that were never deployed. We didn't have the need for them, or there was some kind of complication that we did not have the use of it. So I don't think it had anything to do with politics from the federal level. I think we were just trying to look through and find savings back to the federal government. And obviously, if you have a pile of money that you've never used, that's a pretty easy savings to return back. And $157 million is more than a ham sandwich.
And second question is next steps. It sounds like we have that money and are we gonna be returning it to the federal government? Is it money that they haven't maybe given to us yet and we're just not gonna take it from them? What does that look like next steps?
So this, I think Oklahomans will find it. I found it really interesting whenever I talked to the Doge folks. There's no mechanism in the federal government to receive funds back. And so I think we talked to our U.S. senators and said, hey, you need to run a bill that allows a state to actually return unused money from the states. And so it's still sitting, it's my understanding it's still sitting here in the state of Oklahoma because there is really no apparatus for the federal government to take money back. And we're seeing that with Elon talking about that. And this is a good example. I think most Oklahomans understand this. The only way that you guys don't have any questions here for me about state agencies or this or that is if we pay every invoice. Same thing that Elon is finding up there. The only time you're starting to hear rumblings is if you're moving someone's cheese, right? If somebody that's living off the government and you all of a sudden are starting to address that and you're asking questions and you're saying, well, how much is this a nonprofit? How much is your CEO making? How much is your COO making? How are the dollars benefiting the mission that the legislature intended this to be? You start asking those questions. First thing they do is hire a lobbyist to come up here and start spreading misinformation and try to get the person fired or try to get you off target and get you on something else. And so I applaud my agency heads for asking these questions. And really, you guys in this room, keep digging, keep asking these questions, keep exposing. We're trying to shine a light on state government and make sure that the state dollars are used effectively. You're looking at a governor that believes in smaller government, lower taxes, flat budgets. I want government to be more efficient. And I think we've proven that over the last 7 years.
Speaking of shining a light on government institutions, you have just appointed 2 people this month to the OSU, Oklahoma Board of Regents for the Agriculture Mechanical College, government OSU, as well as Mr. Williams today, Oklahoma Board of Regents. I was curious.
Regarding your Regents appointments, both of these gentlemen, I think, have experience in venture capital or capital lending, however you'd say. How did they kind of go through the process? What were you looking for, and what are you hoping for them as they respectively look at OU and OSU as institutions? OSU having a more recent headline making financial scenario.
Yeah, great question. So with Oklahoma State University, the problems that needs to be fixed, quite frankly, is the restrictions on how I pick Board of Regents. OU has a much better system. The regents I pick at OU can be from anywhere in the United States, right? They can live anywhere. They can be whatever acumen we need for that specific purpose. We can go find the very best and brightest in the United States, and we can put them on these boards. I actually have 2 board members from out of state. I've got one in Ohio, Stevenson, and then I have a guy out of East Texas, Ken Waits, on the OU Board of Regents. These are super sharp business people. These are billion-dollar corporations, so to speak, that spend a lot of money. They hire a lot of people, and you need some strong board members. So Rainey Williams, the guy I just put on the OU's Board of Regents, is just an amazing Oklahoman, super smart, well-respected Oklahoma City person, but great acumen when it comes to looking at finances, looking at legal issues. He's an attorney from the University of Oklahoma, been a very successful business leader. He served on the OU Health Board and just done an amazing job there of righting that ship. And so I think he's going to be great. And then the other board members, I trust them, and they tell me, hey, here's what we need on these boards. Can you find this for us, Governor? And then we go out and try to find the very best person. So that's that. Tracy Poole up in Tulsa. Tulsa, back to Oklahoma State, I had to choose from the Tulsa area. And this was an at-large piece. So the other problem with Oklahoma State's board is you have to choose sometimes from certain geographic areas around the state, and they have to have agricultural in their, they have to be farmers or ranchers, which is good, right, on paper. But then it just keeps shrinking the pool that you can pull from. And instead of just saying, hey, if I need a business person, or if I need an attorney, or if I need someone that has healthcare, expertise, I can go get that person, or the best person in the state. But Tracy is amazing. Same thing. He's got similar background to Rainey Williams. He's an attorney, worked for McAfee and Taft, went to Chicago and ran some private equity folks, and then a great family, great leader in the Tulsa community. And I think he'll bring a business acumen to the board, and they need some more fiscal discipline up there. And again, when I talk to the other board members, they kind of tell me where they're lacking and what they need help with. Back to Rainey Williams, his expertise, overseeing the OU health, which is a big part of what OU does, is something that's going to be very, very beneficial to the board, I think. So, but there's no exact science on it. You just go try to find the very best people. You interview them, and then I talk to the board members and ask them what they need, and then sometimes even talk to the administration and make sure that there's no red flags, and we go through our process. So, thank you guys so much for being here, everybody. So, welcome to the ceremonial bill signing. We've got a great group out there in the hall that'll be coming through, and we want to make Oklahoma the best place to live, to work, to raise your family. And we're doing it. It's just amazing the momentum that we have in our state right now. So we picked out some of the very, very best bills that were across the finish line of my desk this year. And so we're going to do this this bill signing. Right now people are moving to our state like never before. We're top 10 of people moving here. The economy is the best it's ever been. We have the largest savings account. I don't know if it's been reported yet, but we were also $250 million when we finished out the fiscal year, June 30th. We were $250 million above what we estimated our revenue. And then when you look at our 5%, we only spend 95% of our revenue. So that was another $750 million that went in. So the economy continues to grow, which is really, really exciting. And I believe it's because of our pro-business, pro-family policies that we're getting across the finish line. Here, above everything else in Oklahoma, we value God, we value families and hard work, and it's just part of our ethos here as Oklahomans. So states all over the country are seeing, and we see policymakers in other states attacking conservative values that we hold dear to the state of Oklahoma. So we signed a couple pieces of legislation to try to preempt anything from happening that we see happening in other states. I'll go through a couple of them here, but I'm proud to sign legislation, House Bill 1217, and this protects our kids from radical gender ideology, obscene performances. Again, pretty common sense. If you want to do those kind of performances at your own house, at your own club, and whatever, knock yourself out. What we're saying here is we're not going to allow that to be done in public places where kids are present. All right, pretty common sense to us in Oklahoma, and everybody agrees with me on that, or at least maybe 90% of Oklahomans agree with me on that. There's always somebody. Somebody would complain if your ice cream was cold, right? So common sense for us. Senate Bill 418 ensures that only biological women will reside in women's prisons. Again, pretty common sense. Again, this wasn't happening in Oklahoma, but it was happening in other states like California, that you could say that you're a woman and then you could be sent to a woman's prison. And so we were going to make sure that we protected women's spaces in the state of Oklahoma. Again, a 90-10 issue. I'd like to find out who the 10% are that don't agree with me on that, but a 90-10 issue. Senate Bill 500 ensures our Oklahoma gun industry can work without fear of political discrimination. President Trump also just signed an EO on this exact same matter. And basically what that's just saying is in Oklahoma, we're not going to let you, we're not going to do business with banks that discriminate against the oil and gas industry, that discriminate against the gun industry. And because of those proactive policies, you probably saw we landed CBC, which is a large, one of the largest in the world, ammo manufacturer that is moving to Oklahoma. They're going to be spending about $350 million. We're really excited. They supply ammunition to the U.S. military, the German military, sportsmen all over the country. And we're very, very proud to welcome them to Oklahoma. They also own Taurus. They're 25% owner of Colt firearms. And so everybody listening to me back up in the Northeast, if you're an ammo manufacturer, we want you in the state of Oklahoma. If you're a gun manufacturer, we want you to come to Oklahoma and set up shop and hire Oklahomans and enjoy the freedoms of our state. Senate Bill 20 keeps our roads safer by mandating that those driving with commercial driver's license have to be able to read and speak English. Again, I mean, my team tells me it's a 90-10 issue, but I'm not sure who the 10% would disagree with that are. Pretty common sense to us. We want our roads safe. We want to know that those people, those commercial drivers that are driving around our roads and moving, it's a very important industry for our state, and they're moving our goods and services. We just want to make sure that they're trained properly and that public safety is paramount for the citizens of the great state of Oklahoma. So at the very least, you should be able to pass those tests. You should be able to read and speak English if you're going to be driving on our roads in a commercial capacity. So again, common sense. House Bill 2610 and Senate Bill 658. Excited to sign those, get those across the finish line. They protect and promote our amazing foster families. And I know our churches do a great job of promoting that. We need more people, more great Oklahomans giving back to that next generation. If you found yourself in a foster situation and kids that need help, man, there's nothing better than seeing a child be brought into a loving home and changing the trajectory of their life. And so we want to promote that. And we certainly know that it's those families that have very deep faith. We're not going to let the system discriminate against them. Again, it doesn't happen in Oklahoma, but we're preempting that. So other states, I don't want to name some of the other states, but some of the other states, are discriminated against, like, for example, a Catholic family that has their faith is very important to them, that wants to foster a child. So we want to make sure that it doesn't happen here in the state of Oklahoma. So I'm proud to sign these bills. I want to thank the House and Senate members that work so hard to get these across the finish line. Passing a bill takes a lot of effort and sometimes is very difficult to get across the finish line because there's always opposition to it. But I want to thank the House and Senate for getting these very, very important bills across the Senate line. To what I'm saying is promotes the Oklahoma way of life and makes Oklahoma the best state to live, to work, and to raise a family. And it's why our state is growing so much right now. So we don't apologize for our conservative values, our God-fearing values. We actually promote that here in the state of Oklahoma. So thank you so much, and we'll do this ceremonial bill signing. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Governor Bryant. And first off, I want to welcome everybody here. We're so excited to have y'all in our great state and beautiful capital. And Secretary Noem, just want to remind you that college football season starts tonight in Oklahoma. So Oklahoma State plays, and it was 1 year ago. How much has your life changed in 1 year? So you and Brian were my guests when Oklahoma State put it to South Dakota State University on August 31st. Then our season just went south after that. But we certainly enjoyed having you and Brian in Stillwater. And it's only been 1 year ago. And think how much things have changed since then. Yeah,
they've changed a lot. Thank you. That was a fun day. We'll have to do that again, except
that's right.
We'll have the Jacks will have to come out on top.
And Brian, her husband, is a great athlete. So we were throwing the football down on the field before the game started and had a great time. And so if y'all are here tonight, anybody wants tickets to the game, just let me know and we'll take you up to Stillwater for the Thursday night kickoff. But
we have a few games in Mississippi this weekend, so I may need to get something's going on there. I know.
Well,
Oxford, Hattiesburg.
Anyway, we're so excited to have you guys here. You know, Oklahoma's experienced more than our fair share of devastating tornadoes and historical floods, and most recently wildfires that impacted thousands across our state. And as governor, one of the things that I'm most proud of is what we call the Oklahoma Standard. You see, and Governor Bryant touched on it, in 1995, after the Oklahoma City bombing, the world watched in shock as people ran into danger to rescue strangers and to care for families they'd never met. And out of that was born the Oklahoma Standard. And the Oklahoma Standard is this idea that when hardship hits, it isn't the government that fixes the problem, but it's neighbors walking with neighbors. And in our toughest moments, we lift each other up and we meet the needs of our friends and our neighbors without being asked. And back in 1995, I remember the New York City Fire Department sent a whole bunch of people to Oklahoma to help us with our recovery efforts. And then we repaid that kindness after 9/11 as we sent resources to New York. And I know a lot of states did the exact same thing. And so Americans are always in this together when disaster strikes. After wildfires in March that ripped through our communities and our neighborhoods, I also saw neighbors jump into action. And that same standard lives and breathes today in Oklahoma. I saw church members walking up and down the street serving coffee and breakfast burritos to those that were surveying the damage. I saw friends helping elderly neighbors start navigating the complicated insurance process while they're literally sitting on the front porch of a home that was destroyed. It's heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's really the very best of humanity on display. And after every tornado, every ice storm, every flood, every fire, Oklahomans, they band together and we begin rebuilding. And if we're known for anything, I love the fact that Oklahoma is known for the Oklahoma Standard. And today and this week, you guys are going to spend a lot of time talking about how to best respond to disasters nationwide. It's our experience that FEMA's response to disasters is not necessarily effective or efficient. During a brutal tornado season here in Oklahoma in 2024, we learned that hundreds of FEMA employees were on the ground in Oklahoma. That sounds great until you find out they were in an office building in Oklahoma City, 75 miles from where the damage was. And you ask any Oklahomans what they were doing, and no one can really tell you. And now, I'm not trying to disparage any one employee, but the reality is that a bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. can't tell people in Oklahoma or Louisiana or Florida the best way to respond to a disaster. That's best left to local emergency managers. Oklahoma's Emergency Management Director, Annie Vest, who's with us today, which I know you guys are getting to share with her some, and you guys are meeting. She shared with me some staggering information this past week. So from 2015 to 2025, Oklahoma had 20 disasters that cleared the threshold for FEMA intervention. FEMA allocated $1 billion to these disasters. But here's the deal. FEMA also spent an estimated $500 million on administrative costs. Every dollar wasted on bureaucracy is a dollar not spent rebuilding a family's home or a business. That, I believe, is what we're trying to change. The truth is we aren't certain how much FEMA spends to administer disaster assistance. The overhead costs are buried. They're spread across programs. They're never fully accounted for. That's not efficient. It's really not transparent. There's a clear solution. Let's slash the bureaucracy at the top and block grant the funds out to the states to respond to emergencies rapidly and efficiently. States can take on more of the responsibility if they have the flexibility to rebuild quickly without the interference of federal red tape and layers of administration. I'm also advocating for a discussion around the threshold for disaster designation. You probably won't hear this from a lot of other governors, but listen, right now in Oklahoma, a disaster costing $7.45 million. That triggers a FEMA intervention. In agreement with my emergency management directors, I'm calling on FEMA to quadruple that threshold. Take it up. Our past disaster shows Oklahomans can manage events up to $30 million. Taxpayer dollars shouldn't be reserved. They should be reserved for true catastrophes, not routine storms. If we look at the last decade, back to the 2015 to 2025 timeframe, we would still have received, if you would have moved that disaster threshold up, we would have still received 93% of that $1 billion. Ensuring that our worst disasters don't leave communities in an impossible situation. We get it. There is an absolute, we need some of that help for the major stuff. But we do not need Washington for every single thunderstorm. We need them for events that truly overwhelm our states. We as states have become entirely too reliant on the federal government. With $37 trillion in debt, we cannot keep spending above our revenue. That's why I've been a proponent for a balanced budget amendment. And just to take us off track just for a second, there's 28 states have passed a balanced budget amendment. We think South Carolina is going to pass it. As you know, if we get to 34 states, we force Congress to take this up, then it has to be ratified by 38 states. But it just seems like it's out of control, the spending. And if you go back to 2019 spending on the expense side, if we were still at 2019 expenses, we'd have a balanced budget today. But instead, we're spending $2 trillion over our income. And that's just going on our national debt. Okay, I come from the mortgage business. And I remember when I bought my first house in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Governor, it was $66,000 I spent. Okay.
All the money in the world.
That's right. It was all the money in the world. Just graduated from college. I remember writing my first house payment, and it was about $500. And I looked down, and only $48 went towards principal. I was like, what? Only 48 went towards principal? But at least I knew in 30 years I was going to own my house. Well, the reason I tell you all that, and I tell this in a lot of my speeches, is because we don't pay principal and interest on our national debt. Even if it was only $48, it's interest only. It means we're never paying it off. And then it gets worse because we put $2 trillion on it every single year. It was $36 trillion in December. It's already at $37 trillion. Congress has a tough job on how to appropriate money, but you have to have a limit, and it's called your revenue. Okay. But as states, it's our job to serve our constituents in the best way we know how. States have balanced budgets. We rely on our own expertise and ensure we are prepared for disasters in a way to do that. Oklahoma tries to do that well. I want to thank President Trump, Secretary Noem, for convening these types of groups to focus on how do we streamline, how do we get dollars on target and not through the bureaucracy. So I think that's the heart of President Trump, and we applaud that. And all of us in this room, we want to take care of these disasters, but we want to do it as efficiently and effectively as possible. So again, I want to close and just thank you guys so much for coming to Oklahoma. You're always welcome here. We think we have the most beautiful capital in the country. And I hope our OEM team can be a really good resource to all of you as we discuss how to move forward, how to improve this process for all of America. And if America is going to meet the challenges of tomorrow, we have to put the states back in charge. It's the states that are actually responding to these disasters. It's the states that build schools and hires teachers, not the federal government. We know our land, we know our people, and we know how to respond faster, leaner, and smarter than Washington ever could. That's the Oklahoma standard, and that should be the American standard. I'm so proud to be an American, but I thank God every day that I was raised in Oklahoma. Thank you so much.
Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Salute, pledge.
Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Salute, pledge.
John Martin au drapeau des États-Unis d'Amérique et la République une nation unie, indivisible, avec liberté et justice pour tous.
Salute, pledge.
I salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma, and the rules of peace to unite all people.
Places.
Memo to staff.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Hey, everybody, we are so excited to be here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What a great day to be in T-Town, as we like to call it. I'm especially excited to be here at Eisenhower International School, and want to thank Dr. Connie Horner, the principal, for her leadership and for welcoming us here to your great school. This is a immersion school for Spanish and French, and I was telling the young people that greeted me earlier, it is a goal of mine to learn Spanish. So I am so envious. This is going to be such a great advantage for you to be bilingual, and just encourage you to keep it up. It's also, this school is a great part of Tulsa Public Schools, and we have our superintendent here with us, and you do an amazing job. We're so excited for your leadership. And it's the perfect backdrop, really, to announce a new season for Oklahoma students, for families, and for teachers. Today isn't just about a new leader for the Oklahoma Department of Education. It's really about a new mindset and a new movement. When I took office back in 2019, I said that the turnaround in Oklahoma was going to start right here, right now. Do y'all remember those commercials? You're going to start seeing a lot more commercials of other kinds over the next couple of years too. But we really, when I was taking over as governor and running in 2018, we had no money in savings. We were having budget deficits. You probably saw, remember the teacher walkouts happening in 2018. Also, thousands of students were leaving Oklahoma and going to other states after graduating. When I graduated from college, and then after that, a lot of people were going to Dallas to get jobs and Texas to start their careers. We just didn't seem to have the winning attitude in the state of Oklahoma. But the turnaround started, and I'm so proud of the success we've had over the last 7 years. Today, we have record savings, over $3 billion in our savings account, budget surpluses, some of the best teachers in the country, and more people are moving here to the state of Oklahoma than ever before. We're top 10 in people moving to our great state. And probably one of my favorite stats, 85% of our college graduates are now staying right here at home in the great state of Oklahoma for all the opportunities, not only in Tulsa, but in Pryor and in Oklahoma City and in Grove and Enid and Lawton and all over our state. So a mindset shift is starting to happen. And today is a new day for the Oklahoma Department of Education. This appointment is important, not just because it marks a new leadership in the department, but because it also signifies this mindset shift that I'm talking about. If in Oklahoma, if we're going to be top 10 in everything that we do, we obviously need to be top 10 at education and in our school system and prepare our students for the road ahead. And I tell people all the time, everywhere I travel and all the speeches that I give, is it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, or you live in rural or urban Oklahoma, or you live in New York City, or you live in Madill, Oklahoma. We really all want the same thing as Americans. And too much has been dividing us. And we need to come together, and we need to focus on education. We need to focus on our economy, and we need to focus on infrastructure and healthcare. And I tell everybody, let's focus on those four things. Let Washington, D.C. play politics. We're trying to influence them a little bit as well. But in Oklahoma, we want Oklahoma to be the very, very best state to live, to work, to raise our family. And we can do that together as a community. And when I took office, I knew we needed a system that emphasized the learning needs of every single student. That's very important to me. I have 6 children. They all learn differently. Educators that spend their lives doing this, you know that kids need different things and they need different tools. And that's why we passed open transfer. We saw some kids wanting to go to different schools for different opportunities. And so we knew that was very, very important. So I want to thank the legislature for getting that across the finish line. Open transfers was really important. We also passed the best education freedom plan, I think, in the country. And I remind people all the time that rich people already had school choice. First thing they do is they decide what neighborhoods they're going to move to, or what school district they want to be in, and where they can get their kids into the best school, or if their kids are being bullied, or they want more opportunities, they're going to move their kids to another school. And so with our education freedom, now every single parent has a refundable tax credit to move their kids if they think there's a better opportunity for them. That also injects competition into the system that holds everybody accountable. Everybody gets better. And I knew our schools also needed to be secure. So we want our kids spending time learning, not worrying about their safety. So we passed Secure Our Schools and the Alyssa's Law. I knew we needed kids that were graduating college ready or career ready. So we created different pathways for kids to move so they can have more hands-on exposure through different class options, more school choices to fit their needs. I'm taking a trip to Switzerland to look at their model. What's fascinating about Germany, Switzerland, some of these other countries, and I'm taking our superintendent here in Tulsa and also Oklahoma City with us on this trip, but when you're a sophomore in high school, you literally can choose to go after sophomore year, your high school's kind of done. So your junior and senior year is when, if you want to go to college, you start preparing for college. But if you want to go a career route, you literally start going and working as an apprentice, an internship, you start getting paid. And guess what? 60% of the kids choose that route. And it's not poo-pooed like it is here in the US. We want kids. It actually, the average starting salary in the United States of America for a kid that graduates from trade school is $62,000 a year. The average salary for a bachelor's degree is $52,000 a year, plus all the debt that they have. And so I just encourage us to rethink how we are, our school counselors, how we're exposing our kids, making sure that we are getting them ready for the career that they need. But the mission is clear, and we're going to get it done. But before I became governor, and many of you probably are like this or maybe watching on TV, when I was growing up in Oklahoma, I had no idea that the superintendent of education was separately elected and kind of had their own political agenda. I didn't know that. The reality is that there has always been misalignment between the governor and the superintendent. At best, we had parallel agendas that with very little coordination. And at worst, you might remember back in 2022, the previous superintendent switched parties and campaigned for governor while they were serving. This has been a long struggle, and it's held Oklahoma back from becoming top 10. We can and we should change that. The superintendent of public instruction should be a position appointed by the governor. There's only 12 states in the U.S. that elect the superintendent of education. And there's really zero correlation between outcomes with those 12 states that they're having better outcomes than the other states. So I urge the legislature to take this opportunity to send to the ballot an appointment authority for the next governor to be able to appoint the superintendent of education to align with that vision and to really focus on the kids reading and math and getting our kids ready for the workforce instead of running for the next office. And I look forward to working with the legislature this next session. And I'm so honored that Speaker Kyle Hilbert is here in the room with us. Thank you so much, Speaker. And Pro Tem Lonnie, thank you so much. Lonnie Paxton is with us. Thank you for your leadership. Big things are ahead. And I'm excited to announce my first appointment after 7 years as governor to the superintendent of education. But maybe more importantly, I'm excited to announce the turnaround team that we're going to put alongside this person. This team will be tasked with rebuilding a vital agency and returning focus to the mission of serving Oklahoma students. We're going to be the envy of the entire country, and it starts right here, right now. With that, I want to welcome Lyndall Fields up here to the stage with me. Lyndall is a lifelong educator. He's a successful business owner, and he's a great leader. He's dedicated his career to preparing Oklahoma students for the workforce. I love his background. And I can't think of anyone better to bring the Department of Education into this next season. I'm excited to have you on board, Lyndall. But with the agency of this size, this complexity, and this importance to me and to you and to all 4 million Oklahomans, he can't do it alone. So we've spent this last couple weeks making calls to some of the best education professionals that we know all across the state, asking them to step away from their jobs and to serve their state. And I'm so grateful for the team of people who said yes. And they're going to make this turnaround a reality, and they're going to help Lyndall. And I want to ask the members of some of the turnaround team to come up on stage with me. Connie Riley, come on up, who's going to be the director of OEQA. Kristen Stevens. Dr. Romel Muex-Poland. Megan Offendahl. Tom Newell. Tom's my chief, and this is such an important part that he's agreed to go over and help with this transition. Tara Thompson. And Nellie Sanders. We wanted the best and brightest helping surround Lyndall to make sure that we could put all eyes on this agency that we've had really not a lot of transparency or knowing what was happening. I also want to ask the present members of the Oklahoma State Board of Education that are here with us to come up. Chris Vandehan. And excited about a couple new members. Wes Nofire is going to be joining the board as well. You want to come on up, Wes? And Brian Bobeck, he's not with us, but he's going to be rejoining the board, and he is a great leader. He's serving also in the state of our faith-based initiatives. But this really is a new day in Oklahoma, and we're going to lead the nation. With that, I want to invite Lyndall up to greet you and say a few words. Lyndall?
Good afternoon. Governor, thank you for your confidence and for this appointment. I'm honored. I'm honored to serve the people of Oklahoma in this new role, and I promise to give you everything I have. Today is about steadying the ship. Standing here at Eisenhower, where my daughter's in 5th grade, this work is deeply personal. As a father, I share the same hopes and worries as every parent. We all want our kids to be safe, to be known, and to be prepared for the future. That's why this steadying the ship matters so much right now. Years ago, after picking Eva up from daycare at my school, we had a daycare facility at Tri-County. And I got to pick her up every day. And Eva climbed in the car. She buckled up her seatbelt and she said, "Dad, I learned something today." And I said, "What's that, sweetheart?" And she said, "Teachers are way more important than the superintendent." And I'm like, what? And she was and is right. If you're not a teacher, a bus driver, a cafeteria worker, or a custodian like Bonnie here at Eisenhower, someone who works with students every day, then you and I are support staff. Our job is to take care of the people who take care of the students. That's why our new mantra is, if you're not taking care of the students, take care of someone who is. So today I want to start by thanking those who are most important, our teachers. To every teacher in Oklahoma, you are the heartbeat of this work. To our principals who lead schools each day, thank you. And to leaders like Principal Horner, who can often be found in the pickup line at the end of the day, carrying an umbrella. And from personal experience, I know reading one-to-one with children who need it. And Dr. Ebony Johnson, who's guiding Tulsa Public Schools with vision and courage. Thank you for the way you serve students, families, and teachers. So how will we steady the ship? By focusing on what matters most, and by working hand in hand with the Board of Education, the legislature, and the governor's office. I bring with me a perspective of more than 30 years in education, including over a decade as a public school superintendent, leading one of the top performing organizations in the country. Since retiring, I've worked alongside schools across Oklahoma to build healthy, high-performing cultures. I know what works, and I know what gets in the way. Our work begins with 3 clear priorities. Number 1, reading proficiency, because every student deserves the gift of literacy. Thank you. Number 2, teacher recruitment and retention, because nothing matters more than great educators in every classroom. And number 3, career pathways, because every graduate deserves more than a diploma. They deserve a future with options. Thank you. And to parents, you are essential partners. We expect you to fight for the highest possible good of your children. And you can expect me to fight right alongside you. Along the way, we'll lead with honesty and respect. I believe in the principle, do what you say what you mean, don't say it mean. That's how we'll operate as a state agency, and that's how we'll treat one another. Before I close today, my friends, I'd like to introduce my wife, Leanne. We celebrated our anniversary yesterday, by the way. She supports me in everything, and I'm also proud to introduce, Eva's in 5th grade back here. Oh, there she is. Hi, sweetheart. This is Eva. Also, her brother and sister are here. Jordan is there in the back. Jordan, stand up, sweetie. And her brother, Blake. Blake is responsible for a divided house, having gone down to Norman a few years ago. And I especially want to reiterate my appreciation to the transition team. They're putting their careers, their businesses, and even parts of their lives on hold to serve this state in such a critical moment. This is not a small thing. It's a gift of time, energy, and courage. And I want every Oklahoman to know how grateful I am to them. Thank you very much. This will not be easy work. Turning around a ship takes time. But in the next 15 months, we can calm the waters, rebuild trust, and lay a strong foundation for the future of Oklahoma schools. So today I ask you for your patience, ask you for your grace. Together we will steady the ship and make sure it's pointed in the right direction for every student in our state. Thank you, friends.
You guys can see why I chose Lyndall, right? He has such passion for this, and just a great leader. And Oklahoma, we're lucky to have you at the helm of the ship. And so now I'm excited to announce that Dan Hamlin is going to be joining this team as the Secretary of Education. So Dan, come on up here. Dan brings years of experience as a professor. He's currently a professor and researcher at the University of Oklahoma at the College of Education. Formerly was a Harvard professor. Just so excited that he's an Oklahoman, right? He's an Oklahoman, and he's willing to step away and help us as this turnaround team focuses on our kids. So Dan, I invite you to the podium to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much. And I just want to thank Governor Stitt and his team for this incredible opportunity. I'm just honored to be able to work for this administration and really to get to work for our state and most importantly, to get to work for our kids. As Governor Stitt just outlined, our state has incredible promise and opportunities for kids, but they're going to need a strong education to be able to successfully pursue those opportunities. So I'm looking forward to the work. And for a number of years, I've been working in academia with school leaders and educators and researching how to improve and strengthen education systems. So now that I have this opportunity to put a little bit of that know-how to work, and I'm excited to get together with our partners across the state to actually enact some real change and progress here in the state. So I just want to say I'm just thrilled by the team that's been put together, and especially our new state superintendent, and just really looking forward to hit the ground running in the days to come. So thank you very much.
So as you can see, we think this is a great day for Oklahoma. It's a great reset mindset and shift in the Department of Education, and so thankful for the team behind me that's stepping up to serve their state. So with that, we'll open it up to some questions for our team here.
Say your outlet, please.
Rick Marin on Fox 23 here in Tulsa. I can't tell you how many emails I've received over the past 3 years from teachers who feel like they've been beaten up worse that have been yada. What is your plan for increasing teacher morale and giving them the respect that they are entitled to? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I think it starts today with acknowledging our appreciation for them. I think people need three things. Number one, they need meaningful work. They need proximity to a leader who cares about them. And finally, they need leaders to let them know they're proud of them. So we'll begin to establish those core values across the state agency, and hopefully others across the state will begin to do the same thing. So we just want to share our appreciation and let them know how much we appreciate them.
I know this is very early to ask this question, but as you come in, you're only going to have about a year in this role. Do you have plans to run again as the incumbent, and what would make or break that decision for you?
Yeah, sure. The answer is no. I'm committed. I'm laser focused on what needs to be done at the state agency to right that ship, to calm the waters. I don't plan to spend any energy running for office. I'm not a politician, so our time's going to be spent at the agency.
I'm glad he said no, because that was the question I asked in the interview process, because I wanted somebody not focused on the next election. Let's focus on the kids. That's why I'm really encouraging the legislature to put something to the ballot to say, hey, let's change the way we do this, like most other states. And so glad he said no on that one.
This was for the governor, Dylan Brown, KFOR. I guess I have a two-parter question. So when you put in Pick Walters, necessarily endorsed him, you have a quote where you literally say he's going to get us to top 10 in education, 50th, 45th to 50th in education in the nation. You regret that comment. And then also, why should Oklahomans have faith in this person when, I mean, we've seen Friesen a little bit of Zoom Walters now in the past year and a half to 2 years. Why should Oklahomans have paid for this pay?
Well, first off, there's 30,000 state employees, and so you don't always get it right on picking people, but it doesn't mean we don't move forward and try our very, very best. And as I outlined earlier, the governor doesn't have the authority. You handcuff the governor. That's why I think this move to make this an appointed position by the next governor, it's not going to benefit me. It's only for the betterment of Oklahoma. So, but as far as the proof's going to be in the pudding with Lindell. This is my first appointment to this position, and I think we've got a really, really good track record across state government. So the point of your question, you don't always get it right, and people move forward. Public service is hard, and I don't want to cast shade on anybody, but I think it's time for a reset in education, and I think Lindell is the right person to lead that.
Murray Evans from Oklahoma. With this new team, what happens to the folks like Matt Langston and other leaders who have been in place the last couple of years?
Well, we've had no transparency. We don't know exactly what's happening inside the agency. That's why we have a team. We've got all these smart people around us that are going to go in there and look at everything, look at every contract, look at every vendor, look and see what's happening. It's my understanding the person that you mentioned is no longer at the agency, but I know Lindell's going to roll up his sleeve with the team behind us, and they're going to be looking at all that, and I'm sure there's going to be some turnover. There's going to be people that are moving on, and then there's going to be some new faces in that organization. But here's the deal: if you want to focus on the kids, if you want to improve education, if you want to support teachers, I think Lindell said it very, very well. I say it all the time that we're here to support the frontline people, and I think that's you can see it in his heart and his attitude, and he's going to go through and give everybody a fair shake. But we're going to try to get the politics out of that agency and focus on getting the money to the classrooms, to the teachers.
Kevin, Fox 23. Are some of the contracts that have been criticized to be political DOSD, like with PragerU, are those going to be reassessed how much they're necessary for the state agency?
We need a little time to get in there and find out what's actually in there. We will assess all of the contracts to look at their value, what value they're bringing to the students of Oklahoma. So just a little time to get in there and find out what's what, and we will be reviewing all of those. Yes.
Hi, Anna Coletto, Tulsa Flyer. My question is for the governor. You mentioned in your remarks that you've been making this transition team and making calls for it for a few weeks. Does that mean you knew Walters would be out as state superintendent before the State Board of Education or the public? And if so, for how long?
So I did not know. So he texted me and said, I want to get together with you on Friday. So that was probably 2 Fridays ago. And then before we met, that's when it started breaking that he was going to resign. I then met with him on that Friday. So it was about a week before the Friday I met with him. So you can get the actual dates for her. But, and then we didn't get the resignation letter. So you can't really move forward, right, until the resignation letter. So I asked for him to bring that when he met with me on Friday. He didn't. He said he would get it to me on Tuesday, and he got it to me on Tuesday. But in the meantime, we started interviewing. We started thinking about it because we thought it was, because when he posted it online, or I don't know exactly what he did, maybe made a statement or some kind, we knew it was serious, but he never really met with me face to face except a text that just said, I need to meet with you. Something's come up. So that was when I started seeing it, but then I saw it like you did in the news when he made it official, but the official resignation came on Tuesday.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Last week, polling showed that 60% of Americans are very, very concerned about the cost of healthcare. My question is, what about the other 40%? Aren't they concerned as well? I would think it'd be about 100%. But some might suggest more government intervention or subsidies is the answer. We know that government involvement only makes things go up. When you get government involved, we see prices continue to skyrocket. So instead, in Oklahoma, we took a common sense approach, and thanks to Representative LePack, who spearheaded this great legislation, and we took after President Trump did an executive order, what we did was codify that here in the state of Oklahoma. And really, it's asking for transparency in pricing at hospitals. Pretty common sense for consumers, for Americans. We want to know, and we should be able to know, how much things cost and not be surprised by humongous medical bills. So now as a patient, you can see the cost of services up front before you actually go in to the hospital. You have the opportunity to shop around to find the best service, the best price possible. And we think that's really, really good. It happens in every other industry, but somehow the healthcare industry has done a really good job of hiding the prices and not letting it be transparent with the consumers. But we do it whether you're buying a car or going to the grocery store. It's just common sense for us to be able to know how much things cost, and that is common sense. So I have Cynthia Fisher here with me today, and Cynthia is the president of patientrightsadvocate.org and has just done an amazing job of advocating for pricing transparency in the healthcare industry, and works directly with Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Oz and President Trump in rolling out his executive order. And then Oklahoma, which she'll tell you about, is leading the way, as we always do in Oklahoma, with common sense and putting consumers first, making sure that we have transparent pricing. And so first state in the country to do this type of transparent bill, which is, we believe, going to lower, that's the ultimate goal, going to put power back into the consumer's hands, going to lower healthcare costs across the state of Oklahoma. So we're excited to get this done. And so I want to turn it over to Cynthia. And thank you so much for all your hard work and for advocating for Oklahomans and helping us get this bill passed. So Cynthia, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Governor.
Thank you. Please.
Well, thank you, Governor. Stitt. It is absolutely exciting to be here today because November 1st, you change history, really being the leading state in the country to protect patients and to help lower cost of healthcare by pulling back the curtain, making hospitals show all actual prices in healthcare so that we would know before we go to get a colonoscopy or an MRI, what is the price you're going to pay. And what has been the case that as long as hospitals and insurance companies have kept their prices hidden, they can charge whatever they want. And that's exactly what has happened. And what has happened in the shadows is there is wide price variation as we're starting to see the prices come about because the President Trump has put forth radical price transparency at executive order to see actual prices across hospitals and insurance companies across the country. However, Oklahoma will be the very first state to make it happen that the consumers are also protected, that if they didn't get the price, then no one can come after them for medical debt. That's the hospital or any collection agencies if the prices weren't transparent and there up front. And the other thing is this law protects consumers to say if they've been harmed by overcharges, they also have a private right of action to go after the hospital for way overcharging them beyond the prices they were to have paid. What type of price variation are we seeing? We're seeing for things like a colonoscopy, sometimes 10 times price difference in the same hospital with the same team. One patient may pay with their plan $1,200, and another patient may be billed over $12,000 for that very same procedure. And we see an MRI. When you can see an MRI, a cash price for an MRI is around $300. And cash is so much cheaper than where we see the insured rates, averaging in a hospital sometimes around $3,000 and as high as $7,500. Why would anybody want to pay thousands of dollars more when they don't have to, when they could see they could get it at a far lower price? So seeing discounted cash prices, and Oklahoma has also led with Dr. Keith Smith and the Free Market Medical Association over decades, has led to pull back the curtain and directly show the cash prices and the same price to all patients. And those prices are often far lower, where you know you're going to get an ACL repair somewhere around 6,000 all in versus paying over 60,000 in an opaque hospital. So competition's a great thing. Free market's a great thing because we all know how to shop. And now patients will have a leg to stand on when they can get prices in advance of care. And then when they insist to get the itemized bill, know whether they've been correctly charged or not. And for employers in the state and for the state health plan, think of how remarkable this bill will be. That means every employer plan should be able to design their health plans to help steer their members and their families to save money and to go get the care they need when they need it at prices in advance they know they can afford. And so copays or deductibles can be saved into family budgets and be used for homes and food and other use for education for their children. But why allow the healthcare system, which is now nearly 20% of gross domestic product in our country? That means we're almost working one day in every 5 just to pay for healthcare. We need to put these trends in reverse and be competitive, and Oklahoma is leading the country. So I thank you for this and want you to know our organization is a nonprofit, philanthropic, and starting November 1st, we have put access up for all Oklahomans on oklahomahospitalprices.org. oklahomahospitalprices.org will have the actual files for all of the Oklahoma hospitals that they post to put their prices in an easy to find tool and a comparative tool for all of you and all the members of your families to be able to search for affordable health care and have certainty before you get your bills. Thank you so much, Governor, and thank you so much, Representative LePage, for the leadership that both the Senate and the House have put in place this remarkable and very important bill into law at this critical time for our country to lower the cost of health care. Thank you.
I don't know how much I could add to that. This was one of those make sense bills to me. I don't know anybody that's ever complained about transparency if you're a consumer or a taxpayer. Only those who kind of hide behind lack of transparency are against something like this, in my opinion. So it was a make sense deal, but there's a few other little things in the weeds of the bill that I think I might point out. And one is it's not just the prices and cash discounts, but you also see the maximums and minimums of the negotiated reimbursements from insurance companies. That's something that we all talk about, the rising costs of healthcare, the rising costs of insurance premiums. But if you could see in the institution you might want to use the difference or the ranges in just those, it might ask you or cause you to ask a few questions about the carrier you're using. And while this bill isn't specifically about health insurance, I think it provides a better informed consumer of those services. And over the long run, if we ever want to get control of healthcare costs and still be the best in the world at delivering those services, we have to have a better educated patient population. So that's one of the reasons I ran it, and one of the reasons I really like it. But appreciate all the kind words. There were a lot of people behind the scenes working this. It wasn't just me. Senator Murdoch actually initiated the bill over in the Senate. It's a Senate bill. We started it over there. There were some strategic reasons for that, mostly limitations on how many bills House members can carry, and I was carrying too many, so I asked, please start with that one over there. So I don't really have anything else to add to that, but thank you, Governor. Thank you all for coming today.
Representative Keats.
Senate Bill 889.
It's an honor to be here. I'm Dr. Keith Smith, co-founder, Surgery Center of Oklahoma, co-founder, Free Market Medical Association with Jay Kempton. I think it's important to know that you can't have legislation like this that enforces price transparency unless everybody agrees that it's possible. Not that long ago, this is something that could not be done. There's no way you could attach a price to a medical service being provided. I'm I don't think it's a reach to say that the idea that a price can be attached to a medical service originated right here in Oklahoma, and it's something we ought to be proud of. That the nation is really watching what's happening here. The Free Market Medical Association, which is an Oklahoma organization that was Jay's brainchild, is now in 37 states. And so this idea of free market discipline that every other industry must endure, I think is raining down on the industry, and it will do exactly what Governor Stitt said. I think we'll see prices fall and quality soar, but this couldn't happen until the prices were attached. People realized it can happen, and then the brave businessmen and women and individuals in the state of Oklahoma decided to purchase their care through this alternate model. So it's a very exciting time. Jay and his clients and we at the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, I think, feel very vindicated at this point, given how not that long ago what you're seeing here was said to be impossible. So thank you.
The procedures, these mandates, is there a reason you made it all 300? Is that just 300 popular procedures?
The 300 procedures is really for the beginning of a shopping tool. However, now, like I said, the Oklahoma hospital prices tool will show all of the prices for every procedure by every code. So the bill actually is consistent with the transparency for all hospital, all bills by every insurance carrier, all prices by every insurance carrier and every health plan, and the discounted cash price. So to post everything they have negotiated and everything they have priced. So it'll be fully complete for all. Thank you.
Website, and then as a second part of the question, who monitors
So the Department of Health is overseeing the compliance here. And as far as where they're posting, where does the bill say they have to post? I know your website is going to be putting it out there, but is the hospital, every individual hospital also has to post their 300 top procedures?
Plus all of the procedures.
Plus all the procedures.
All the procedures, yeah.
Okay.
They can make it an easy shoppable tool for the consumer for the 300, but on their hospital website, they have to post by law all of their procedures and the discounted cash price.
And, I don't know if you caught this, but one thing that I was very impressed with is, we've all had relatives or friends. We've heard about people that, somebody got sick in their family and they spent 3 or 4 days in the hospital or a week and they got this $50,000 bill. They're just, there's no way. Well, what's going to hold people accountable now? They have to go back, and now that we know the pricing, you can't all of a sudden just throw a $50,000 bill out. It's got to be posted. So that is a great protection for people to know what things are being charged. When you go to the hospital, you now are going to know how much is this night in the hospital going to cost me. And I think that's really, really important for self-insured plans, for the state plan, for individual consumers, just the overall to hold down the cost. And then, Dr. Keith Smith didn't really tell his story good enough, but he has pioneered in the country this idea to have transparency in the hospital situation where you know what a knee replacement is or hip replacement. It's a bundled price with the anesthesiologist, et cetera, et cetera. And he's leading the country. People are flying in from around the country because of this transparent pricing model. They know exactly what they're going to be charged. And their outcomes, by the way, are top shelf with all the other hospitals around the country. So he pioneered right here in Oklahoma City.
Can you tell me what the state is impacting the rainy day fund staff?
Well, first off, this is a problem that Congress has got to fix. This is a federal problem. The shutdown right now that has been going on, we're watching it in the news between the president and the Democrats in Congress. I just want to make sure Oklahomans understand this. This is what we call a clean CR. In other words, there's no additional spending. This is exactly what the spending was in the Biden years, and all they're asking for is a clean CR. We've had 3 Democrats come over to our side to fund government. We need 6 more. In the Senate, you need a threshold of 60. So, as governors, we've stepped out from the National Governors Association and said, hey, listen, let's pass a clean CR and fund the government, because states cannot afford these federal programs. In Oklahoma alone, it's $130 million a month on SNAP benefits. So we are working with nonprofits. We're working with our food banks. We will be doing things later on this week. I encourage all Oklahomans to go to our beaneighbor.ok.org. And if you feel like you have some food insecurity issues, you can sign up there. It'll tell you exactly where to go to get help. And then also, if you're a church, we want churches to step up, our food banks. If you want to donate, we want you to know that you can go to beaneighbor.com, beaneighbor.ok.org. And but everything's on the table. The reason we're fiscally responsible and we have the largest savings account, I've constitutionally maxed out our savings in Oklahoma since I've been governor. I took over with no money, and we now have more money than we've ever had. I can't even put any more money in our savings account constitutionally. But we have about $3.5 billion. So we're looking at everything. We want to make sure that Oklahomans are taken care of through this Schumer shutdown, is what I call it. But Congress needs to act. I just want to be really clear that this is a federal program, and it's not just SNAP benefits. You're talking about it's going to affect eventually a lot of programs that we have in the state of Oklahoma. So we encourage Congress to get that fixed. Yeah, I do. What's interesting is not near the problems in Oklahoma City as we had in Tulsa. We don't have the final numbers yet, but our team has done a really good job of cleaning up. We started what we call Zone 1 around the I-40 corridor. And listen, and I'll tell Oklahomans this: I'm not solving homelessness. Okay, that's up to the churches, the nonprofits, the mental health facilities. But I am going to enforce the law, and I'm going to make sure Oklahoma's clean, and we're going to get people the help that they need, and we're not going to let people. It's not compassionate to leave people underneath an overpass sleeping as well. So we're going to do this. We've been working with Key to Home. So we worked with them initially so they could go out prior to our enforcement, and they could get people into some homes and get people the help they need. Nobody went to jail, but we've told them very clearly, we will take you to get help, or we're going to take you to jail. But we're not going to allow you to keep, breaking the law by camping in different areas around the state. So it's going well. I'll have more numbers for you. Tulsa, we cleaned up over 2 million pounds of debris, and we've gone back to make sure that people aren't coming back to those areas again, and hopefully people are getting the help that they need, and that's our ultimate goal. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming and being a part of this press conference. Thanks for sharing this with Oklahomans. Right now we're facing a serious situation here in Oklahoma due to the ongoing federal shutdown. SNAP benefits will not be replenished by the federal government on November 1st. Okay, so just remind Oklahoma, this is a federal program. And due to the shutdown right now, the fighting that's happening in Washington, D.C., they're not going to be replenished. Unfortunately, SNAP benefits are not the only item that can be affected in Oklahoma. Should Congress fail to pass this continuing resolution, the federal, just the numbers that are affecting Oklahoma in November are $205 million. And if it continues into December 1st, it will be a minimum of $350 million that we are shorted in the state of Oklahoma for some of these programs. Simply put, Congress needs to act. I want to clarify, this is a federal issue, and there is what we call a clean CR, meaning it's just a clean bill that continues the funding of the federal government. And right now, The Democrats are non-passive. So I'm so proud of our federal delegation. They have voted on it every single time to pass and over the federal government. And we need, I think, 6 more Democrats. We've had 3 Democrats have come over and voted for the CR. There needs to be 6 more for it to pass. So what are we doing here in the state of Oklahoma to help? Well, we're continuing to push DC for action. We're also mobilizing and working to make sure that Oklahomans can weather this storm. We're talking to all of our state agencies, our federal delegation. We've been in constant contact with them. The legislature here in the state of Oklahoma. We're talking to our churches, nonprofits. Ask everyone to assess the situation to figure out the path forward. So the current situation, it's complicated when you're dealing with these federal programs. But the state, I just want to remind everybody, the reason we're fiscally disciplined as a state is because you never know what's going to hit us. You never know what's going to happen. They don't own personal budgets. You have to be fiscally disciplined. Oklahoma is in a very, very strong financial situation. We have the largest savings account in our state history. Constitutionally, maxed out the rainy day fund. I can't put another dollar in it. We've got as much money as we could possibly put in there. However, if we use state funds, whether that be from a rainy day fund or from other sources, the federal government has said they're not going to reimburse us, or it's not likely, or they can't guarantee it. So before resorting to rainy day, we're going to beef up other programs that we have. So we have the SDE, our Department of Education. We've got WIC. We've got other programs that are here to help. Which some folks behind me, we've got people from the nonprofits, different state agencies here to answer questions as well. We're working with our legislature to understand all the options that we have as a state, if this continues for any period of time, to take care of our fellow. So that's the main thing. But it's also, I want to remind Oklahomans that now is the time for us to step up as fellow Oklahomans, the Oklahoma standard, neighbors walking with neighbors. We're best known all across the country. People talk about the Oklahoma standard. When times get hard, the Oklahomans step up. So that's what I'm encouraging all of my fellow Oklahomans to do. We can go, we set it up when I first came into office, was be a neighbor. And I know that passing laws in Oklahoma City or Washington, D.C. Don't really do anything unless you have neighbors walking with neighbors. You have people helping one another out. So all of that is important. We need to have neighbors walking with neighbors. So I encourage you, every Oklahoman, go to beaneighbor.org. And if you need food assistance, that's where you go, beaneighbor.org. And you can find a list of local churches, some of the food banks, the nonprofits in your area that can help you bridge that gap. If this continues for any given time. Next, I encourage all of us that if you're not on food assistance, then to encourage you to shop at your local grocery store. And the reason that's important, when you think about kind of the consequences that pass to something this major, some grocery stores in the area, they're heavily reliant on SNAP recipients and people spending money in the grocery store. So it can have some trickle effects out. So whether you're buying food to donate to places like the food bank we're in today, or just going through your regular grocery haul every week, support your local grocery store. And the other thing, I've got some great guests behind us that kind of boots on the ground in different communities that we're going to open up to questions. That they understand everyday needs and what we need to do to help our fellow citizens that may be in a needing some assistance during this time. So I know Oklahomans are going to step up. We're going to bridge the gap. And I'm going to continue to work with our federal delegation, our state delegation, our legislature to make sure that the impact on Oklahomans is minimal as possible. And so we're asking the churches and nonprofits to step up. At the end of the day, big picture, the federal government they need to quit fighting and solve this problem. They need to fund this clean CR and stop throwing politics into it and trying to throw other policy items in it. It's called a clean CR, meaning it's a Biden era funding. that they're just continuing, and it needs to be funded. We need to put this, I think all governors across the country have spoken in unison to say, hey, let's fund the federal government. I mean, let's talk about the policy at a different time. So with that, let me turn it over to Lyndall Fields, our superintendent of education, to kind of give you some thoughts, and then I think we'll hear from the folks. So, Lyndall.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Take just a few minutes to share with you things that happen in SEP programs and schools may be able to take advantage of. First of all, let me just say, ensuring that every child has access to healthy, nutritious, and both of the top priority schools around the state, and certainly the state Department of Education. Why the ongoing financial challenges faced by the families are find schools and communities about which they will certain programs what I guess students need. First of all, our child nutrition specialists have been providing guidance and training over the last few days to help schools expedite certain applications for these programs. So as it pertains to the free and reduced lunch, schools should encourage parents and guardians to complete the application for free and reduced price meals with a student as possible. Applications will be submitted anytime during the school year. Hospital's financial situation changes. Once approved, it would children receive free reduced lunches for the rest of the school year. So families that have been affected by income loss and reduced work hours, the government just shut down and they qualify for these free reduced lunches. Schools are also encouraged to participate in at-risk after-school snack program. This program provides a reimbursement for nutritious food for children in after-school programs. These are for low-income areas. Schools are attendance of which attend for 50% students qualify great opportunity for schools to take advantage of it. So as always, we want to thank our school districts for all they do to ensure that children receive nutritious meals every day. Please reach out to us in the community, assistance for us, guidance for this application process.
I'm Stacy Dykstra, CEO of the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. Welcome to our facility. I have the privilege today of sharing a few thoughts on behalf of both food banks. So our food bank here and our dear friends at the food bank of Oklahoma. I wanted to start by just a little snapshot of what our partner pantries are already seeing in terms of change. So we are seeing a very large and uptick of people who have never come to a food pantry. We're seeing 37% increase in people coming and asking for help for the first time. And that brings us to SNAP. SNAP is an amazing, effective first line of defense to make sure every family has the food they need on their tables. Our food charity system, which is what we need in this state, provides one meal for every 9 meals that SNAP funds. I just want to make sure that we're really clear about that. What we are doing as food banks, we are being so deliberate and intentional to find every food resource we can find and to deploy it in the most effective and efficient way we can in partnership with our amazing partner network. We're talking with that network constantly to understand what they're seeing and what's evolving to make sure that we can respond as quickly as we can, or as many neighbors as we can. There are ways that we can help us. We have a plan in place. We would like to double our distribution for each month that this goes on, and that would cost an additional $5.5 million a month. Our friends at Food Bank of Eastern Oklahoma have a very similar plan working hand in hand, and that is their budget amount as well. And that is just a double what we're doing there. It doesn't really do anything to fully address this issue. I just want to be very clear about that. But but we are very committed to doing everything we can to on that front. So what's most important right now is finding things we can buy food very, very inexpensively and get it repurposed back out to our community as soon as possible. So, and if you can't help financially, there are other things you can do. We're always in need of canned meat, hearty soups, canned vegetables, and canned fruits. And you can bring those to food banks or to any of the partner pantries around. Also, volunteer with us. Both of our food banks always have opportunities for volunteering. We might want to think about the partners out in the community. If you go to our websites and put in your address, you will find pantries near you. And I guarantee you that the activity service they're providing, they will really use them. I also want to take this opportunity to say we are so fortunate. People in Oklahoma do not want our neighbors to experience hunger. And we know that in the banks because people year after year so generously give to make sure that happens. And we are so grateful for that. And I'd like to just end by saying time is now, right? We have to come together. We have to support one another. And most importantly, we have to use our voice to let the federal government know to open the government back up to ensure every person in our state has the resources they need to grow. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Cody Anderson. I'm the Senior Pastor of Faith Center Fellowship in Meeting, Oklahoma. We're a multi-church campus here in serving Northwest Oklahoma. And we've been a part of a conversation of readiness from churches from Eaton all the way to Guyman, churches in Tulsa, churches in Oklahoma City, Hill City, Midwest City. We've just taken on a task with our team to connect as much as we possibly can, to have conversations of whether or not we can serve at these specific times in crisis. So there's two things that we see happening in the state of Oklahoma. Number one, we all know just the spirit that Oklahoma carries. And we also want to thank the governor for his initiative in these conversations that were taking place a couple of weeks ago to begin to ask churches to begin to respond. And this is what we've been seeing. We've been seeing churches come together with emergency packages, boxes, where they can serve 7 meals for some of them, some of them 14 meals. But we're seeing this take place in multiple areas of the state. It's encouraging to me. And so what I want to share is a couple of things that we can practically do as the church, as Christians, as fellow Oklahomans that simply care neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, to help our communities be stronger. And that's simply take the time. Don't just shop for yourself, shop for others. As churches, go, be prepared, encourage one another to come together, get the emergency policies put together. And if we just take the system of 5, this is very, very simple, but it's very practical and it's impactful. If 5,000 churches in the state of Oklahoma, between nonprofit and churches that do exist in the state of Oklahoma, they're shy of 6,000, but let's just take the principle of 5. If 5,000 churches respond this weekend, today, and they begin to put together 50 boxes of emergency food, and they do that twice a month for the ongoing purposes, not just because of the pending crisis that we're looking at, but because this is a serious issue that exists in our state, food insecurity. But if 5,000 churches will focus on 50 boxes of emergency response, and they do that twice a month, just do the math, that's almost 500,000 people that are served in our communities, in our areas, and it helps relieve the pressure off the incredible job food banks do. Secondly, if you are a church, if you are a pastor, and you know the resources that you have in your county, in your city, give those in to your people immediately. We have the greatest resource in the state of Oklahoma. And it's not the federal government. It's not what government can do. It's what we can do for one another. We are the greatest resources that are available to serve in this crisis. There's something that is said often by a lot of pastors, but I hear it a lot. And it's the fact is, well, it is going to reopen, and we pray that it's going to reopen. We pray that things are going to change, that right minds would come together and wisdom would prevail. We all want to see that happen. But if it doesn't, this is not a new point, because food insecurity in our nation is a serious thing. 1 in 5 children deal with food insecurity in their homes. Here in Oklahoma, we have some serious issues with food insecurity. We have a facility that we are building to help address food insecurity for the elderly and for veterans in our immediate area. So it's a serious issue that continues beyond November 1, beyond the these upcoming months. But if 5,000 churches would begin to come together in their congregates and begin to establish emergency response packages, we can make a huge dent. Just that step alone makes a huge impact. Second thing that pastors will say is this. They'll say, well, listen, there's too many people that abuse the system. And that's true. There are people that abuse it, bad actors, and everything. But the truth is this, that when it comes to my values, probably your values as well, not one of us are perfect, and we probably all abuse some things called the mercy and the grace of God. I haven't been perfect in my life, but I'm thankful that due to God's mercy and His grace, He has responded to me in an incredible way. And it's given me a life that's been absolutely amazing through Christ Jesus. But the truth is this, is that if the church responds with mercy and not judgment, we can get a lot more done. It's amazing what happens in the tide of rhythm when we serve together. When we serve together, arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, neighbors and neighbors, the governor's calling for, we can see a huge impact being made in this pending crisis. We can be ready and not send just. Jesus said this in the Gospels. If somebody tells you to go 1 mile with him, go 2 miles with him. I believe the heart of Oklahoma is naturally, we've seen it through what we've been through at times in our history, that we're second mile people. But there's a time to be the second mile church, the second mile organization that will do what's necessary in these times that we're seeing now. I'm so thankful for what the Food Bank does, and all of these organizations that stand up here and that are here today that help in incredible ways. We help each other. There's a rhythm that's created. We're better people for it. And it's in this act that even no matter what the federal government is doing, that we can still serve one another and help meet these needs of the food insecurity in our nation. Let's not stop now. Let's let this continue. And in every church, 5,000, let's just say that, do that, 50 boxes, 2 times a month, you can help make it. Okay, have a question.
Governor Stitt, I have a question from Casey, who's a mother of 4 in Edmond. She utilizes SNAP benefits. She wants to know, what is your message to Oklahoma families, and is there a light at the end of the situation?
I'm like most Americans, I've been really thinking that this thing is solved before November 1st. We're just getting prepared in case it doesn't. I think the pressure is mounting. I believe that Congress is going to vote and fix this. It's in the Senate right now. House has passed it. Again, we need 6 more votes to fund the government. So I would tell her just to be very optimistic. I think the longest shutdown in the state of America district is 35 days. Coming up to 30 right now, and it's a little bit different at that point. We're at the beginning of the fiscal year, and this SNAP program is more crosshairs than the shutdown. So I think it's going to get solved. But if it goes to Christmas, I want her to know to go to beaneighbor.org. Also, I think, I don't know if I said this, but if you need help, go to beaneighbor.org. It'll give you places if you're getting food. If you are a church, or back to what the pastor said, and you want to provide something, you can go to beaneighbor.org. You can sign up to be a provider. So that's the connection point. Government's trying to facilitate the state government, and then we'll look at all other options. So let's go to Amy there, and we'll make sure that she has it.
She's also asking, what if you don't have the means to get to a food bank? What if you live in a rural part of Oklahoma?
So are there somewhere around?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think we have a three-pronged approach here to both food banks. Obviously, we're going to utilize our partners across the 77 counties Thanks, so sir. And we have over 600 park vacancies by October. So we'll start there by looking in, but also looking at food deserts, looking at the Indians where we know that the large community that receives SNAP, right? And looking at transportation, we put the message out, relying on partners' lives, communicate with us as well. And we are committed to doing mobile distributions to the home of our agency. You look at rural Oklahoma, a lot of our clients that use SNAP are probably going to live up shoots, but they might be walking. So we know that that's reality. We don't have a perfect plan. We have action. We want to make sure that everybody has.
No, I don't specifically have an update on all the different agencies. They're working on it. Again, nothing's happened until the first year, but we're looking at all those options. But like I said before, in the beginning, SNAP benefits alone, it's around 130 million. We'll have a shortfall in some of these programs. We've also got child care programs that will be affected. December 1st, we're looking at $350 million. And we have we're in a good situation, but these are federal programs, and it's very, very complicated because even if we wanted to put the money in immediately to solve November's problems, we don't even have access to those credit cards, the pound stamp benefits are delivered, and so we're having to work behind the scenes and to engage people behind me and all the folks across Oklahoma. That's why I'm thankful for the meetings here to share some of these messages with people, get the message out. Because November 1st, potentially, the government doesn't reopen. There could be really families that are struggling with how to buy groceries without leaving. So that's what we want to get ahead of. We want to try to fix. And I want to remind people, God, this is a federal issue. We need to put pressure to make sure that it's solved. All of our federal delegation has been voted 13 times. And all of our representatives of the state of Oklahoma have voted to open the government every single time. So I just want everybody to know we are trying. And, politics are being played at the level that as well as Oklahoma is trying to take it over.
Governor, so you mentioned earlier that our rainy day fund was maxed out. Can you talk about how much is in that fund and at what point the state would actually use that money?
Yeah, so the rainy day fund is close to $1 billion. It's about 15% of our overall GR, general revenues, county constitution, account set up. It's totally maxed out. We have some other funds as well. But to access the rainy day fund is set up in a way that you're only supposed to access it in a revenue failure, right? We don't have a revenue failure. This is a federal government problem, not a state problem. And so to access that, the max you can access is 300 million. And it takes 2/3 of a vote of the legislature. So we have to call people back for a special session. And then how do we actually get it delivered by November 1st on those cards? We don't have access to do it. So that's what I mean by it's kind of complicated to deliver that. And so we're looking at all that. Things continue through Jeffrey, who runs Jeffrey Carville, who runs DHS, is looking at all that, talking to the vendor that monitors those cards to see if we need to do something in the month of December or later on. What does that look like? How quickly we get that on? But again, we're encouraging all of our representatives across the country to do the right thing. Let's reopen the government.
Did you reach out to any minority groups?
Yes. The church groups are calling that we've talked to them from Touts, the guy in Tulsa, to Godibo, to Idabel, all in between. So again, all the churches, whether you're serving your community, go to beaneighbor.org and sign up as a place that can provide some of these assistance to your neighbors in your local community. And I love his math there, 5,000 churches, delivering a box like that a week, every 2 weeks, would be 500,000. So that'd be amazing stat to see how this works. But plus we got WIC, it's not being disrupted. It was also monitored by Keith Reed with Department of Health. And so there's a lot of other programs that we've heard from Lincoln Fields with Department of Education. Their programs are not being disrupted at this point. And so we've got a lot of hands on the same pile trying to figure this out. Yeah, so one of the couple of the tribal governments we talked to, I believe, yeah, you can take that, right?
So, so the tribal governments that go with the program, 5 years ago, historically, it's been a very unnecessary process from the staff to get tribal programs. We've had several conversations this week with that community right now, local tribes to figure out a way to expedite shipping. So far, that industry hasn't been iron, but now, however, you can be on staff and on that. So we're trying to make sure that we can expedite that transition as quickly as possible, but we create